homes were demolished. Esselen Park residents on Gauteng's East Rand are rebuilding their shacks. Many say that they've been on the RDP housing waiting list for over 2 decades now, and they say that illegal occupation of land is their only option. But the City of Ekurhuleni says that it remains unfazed. Our reporter Maageketla Mohlabe, who's been tracking that story, joins us in studio now. It's winter, and so people being homeless is a huge issue. And so I suppose one can understand whilst they're rebuilding these shacks. Tell us what's happening with this story.
Well, basically when we arrived there at Esselen Park about midday today, we actually saw cars coming through. They had, planks on, they had corrugated iron on. And when we drove further into that field, we saw some shacks being erected. And of course, when we approached the people there, they actually talked about the fact that they've been, of course, as you've indicated in that intro, they've been on the waiting list for more than 2 decades. And of course, some of these people are parents. One of the parents that we spoke to there has got 3 children with her there. And she says that I've been renting and I cannot manage to pay rent anymore. I've been living with these 3 children in one room. And now it's about time that ever since I've been waiting for my title deed and also to get an RDP house, it's about time that I get a shack. And this is the place that I feel it should be home for me. And of course, I actually engaged with the community leader who actually talked about the fact that he is there to represent the people, as the people are actually looking for land. And despite the fact that this is illegal occupation of that particular land, they will keep actually, occupying that land. And if you can actually remember, EMPD officials have actually been coming through to that particular area to demolish the shacks, and they keep on demolishing. As soon as the EMPD officials disappear, the people will actually go back and rebuild those shacks. And this is what actually the community leader said when I actually asked him about being aware if this occupation is illegal.
Well, that is so political, because the land is created by Almighty Elohim. Psalms 24 is talking about the land is created by God. So when we are poor, we have no place to live. Where are supposed to live? I told MMC that even where I was staying in my granny house, I sleep on the passage. I'm still sleeping on the passage. So that's why it's better here, because I cannot even able to buy a bed. The passage is so small. The land is created by Almighty. And as African, we know that we are born here. And that land is...
Maageketla, that sounds like a very desperate voice of people who feel like they've got nowhere to go and what to do. But the other side of this problem, of course, is that these are land invasions, and this is a legal invasion of property. What are the authorities saying about this? And
of course, we actually spoke to the City of Ekurhuleni, who have actually took a stance to say we are actually going to have a zero tolerance to people who actually occupy this land illegally. And of course, if I can just take you back to what the MMC for housing at that particular City of Ekurhuleni said, he said that that land has been earmarked for development that will be starting in July. And he says that about 7,000 houses will be built for people who are in need of houses. But again, they keep saying that we cannot wait. We've been, on the waiting list for long now, for over 2 decades. So we need to actually, get ourselves this land to occupy and to stay. So the City of Ekurhuleni also said that they will keep on sending the EMPD officials to demolish the land. And we spoke to the MMC today after actually approaching the people who are at that land. And this is what they had to say.
Stance to illegal occupation of land. in particular land that is earmarked for a broader development of the people. Any shack that is going to be erected, we are having a court order to actually do away with that, because that is a wrong it's a wrong way of addressing the plight of the people. We have got a long-term solution, and this long-term solution should never be deterred by short-term interventions of erecting shacks there. I said it the last time that we don't tolerate brutality. However, we also want to say that people should not delay the developments of other people for expediency purposes. So we want to say that in the strongest possible terms, we condemn the illegal invasion of that land, and we shall act. We shall act against illegalities. If the shack is erected illegally, we are going to demolish it.
All right, so that's the voice of authority. They said they will demolish any illegal buildings that are, or shacks that are being built on invaded land. But it's cold, people have nowhere to go, this is what they're saying. And I wonder, Maageketla, if the authorities have offered alternative accommodation for these desperate people.
In fact, 3 weeks back, you'd recall, we covered a story there of people who had their shacks demolished by the EMPD officials, and they had their shacks or property burnt down, allegedly, by the EMPD officials, of which, of course, they actually denied that particular point. So they spent about 2 weeks sleeping under a tree there in this cold, without food, of course, without basic services. And I think about 2 days after we did that story, of course, Good Samaritans came through and they managed to get mothers and their children, about 3 of them, as well as 2 young people. They actually gave them accommodation because they saw that they are in need of accommodation. They had their shacks demolished without alternative accommodation at that point. So we approached the City of Ekurhuleni to actually ask that particular questions, to say, why would you actually demolish their shacks without giving them alternative accommodation? So about 5 days later, they managed to get them alternative accommodation. But this is what happened. After they gave them that alternative accommodation, apparently these people then decided to go back to the land, to where they were. And I think this is a huge concern for the City of Ekurhuleni on the other side, to say that we did this story, fine. We actually wanted to give them alternative accommodation, as the SABC actually did that particular story. But here they are pulling back. They're going back to that particular land. I think that's a story that we're going to be following up tomorrow to see why these people are actually going back to where they were, and knowing that it's winter, it's very cold, and children cannot actually live and sleep under a tree under these particular conditions.
All right, so very complicated story, and one I'm sure that we'll need to re-explore again in the coming days. So Maageketla Mohlabe, thanks very much indeed for your insights on that particular story. And that's which is playing out in Gauteng's East Rand, but these stories of occupying land and building shacks is playing out right across the country.